All right, so today's webinar, this is September 22nd, 2020, and today's webinar is to understand customer group pricing and what that is in CoreCommerce, how you would use it. For those of you who have never either don't realize that it exists or just not familiar with exactly what you could do with it, the purpose of this webinar is to review what it is and how you would use it in CoreCommerce. So let's get started. I'll first start off by defining what a customer group is. So it's a way to segment your customers into different pricing groups. So, if you have wholesale customers that shop at your store, instead of having to have two core commerce stores, for one for retail pricing, one for wholesale pricing, you can do it all within the same shopping cart system. Or let's say you have VIP customers that you want to give certain discounts to that nobody else can get on certain items. And those are permanent discounts, right? So it's not like a one-time use a coupon type discount. It's like this customer always gets this price on this item. Um, you can do those types of things with this platform. So um, a good example, as I mentioned here in the text is, if customer A is a retail customer, they can see product A on the site selling for $100, but customer B comes onto the site and sees it for 45 bucks. And customer B is just in a different customer group in which you assigned the price of that item to be 45 bucks. Setting up the groups, there's a few steps in getting it 100% set up. The first step is to create the group itself. And so to do that, you would go under the customers tab on your left-hand menu and choose customer groups. From there, you'd see the list of all the groups that may or may not already exist. You can create your own new group by giving it a group name, as I show here on the right. You can decide which categories, and I'll talk about that in a second, but that second section, I'm essentially deciding which categories this group is allowed to see. If you don't highlight a specific category in that menu, you're telling the system that you do not want people that are tied to this group to see that category. So for example, if I choose the category candles and small candles, but I don't choose the category that says Daniel, then if I tried to manually go to the Daniel category, it wouldn't let me. And I wouldn't see the Daniel category on the front end of the website. So for example, in category widgets or navigation, it would be smart enough to not show me that link in places where it has the control to hide it from you. I can also determine if a group is going to be the default group when new customers create accounts. Are people in this group automatically tax exempt? Can people in this group view pricing and add to cart? And so far and so forth. Do people in this group automatically get free shipping? There's a few different ways you can handle groups and allow customers to disassociate themselves with a certain group. If you want to give them that privilege, you have the ability to do that as well. So by selecting a group to be default, then when someone creates an account, it will automatically assign them to this group without you having to do anything. If you check that checkbox where it says default for new customers, you'll notice a second checkbox will then appear right below. It'll unhide itself. And that second checkbox will say customers must be approved before they can log in. If you check the second checkbox as well, then what happens is when a customer creates an account, they'll be assigned to this group, but they'll be put into a status of pending. And then you'll have to go into the customer directly and edit the customer and mark them as approved. And then only after you've done that will their actual login work and they can log in and then be a member of that group. If they're pending, the system will treat their login as if it's invalid and doesn't exist. This restricting customer groups to view selected categories is what I mentioned just a minute ago with the categories. So it allows you to either hide certain categories from groups or assign only certain categories to certain groups. So a good example of this is if you have a very specific category that you only want to offer to your wholesale customers, then when you create the different groups, you can make sure the wholesale customer group has that category highlighted and the other groups that you create do not. And that way, the only way I could see that category and any products assigned to that category would be to be a member of this group and be logged into that as a member of that group. The next step is once the groups themselves exist that you need to segment by, the next step would be to go into a product and to tell the system what the prices are for each item. So in this example, I have two customer groups. One is called JL and the other one is called wholesalers. And what I would then do is assign the price to each item. To do that, I would click on the name of the group. So I would click in the little gray box where it says JL, and then I would type in the number 5, and then I would click on JL again, and then you will see the $5 appear below the phrase JL, and that's how you know that it accepted it. Then I would click on wholesalers, for example, go back up to the text field, type in the number 8, which is what you're seeing in this screenshot. And then when I click on wholesalers again, it locks in 8 as the wholesale price. And then I can hit the save button at the top and I know that it will lock in all these prices. So essentially what I did here is say for this sample item, if I'm logged in and I'm a member of the group JL, I'll see the price is 5. But if I'm a member of the group wholesalers, I'll see the price is 8. The next step after that is to make sure that the customer themselves is in the group that you want them to be in. In some cases, it will assign people to a certain group by default, as we spoke about earlier. And that's what you're seeing in this screenshot. So when I created this test account, it automatically assigned me to the JL group because that was the group that was the default group in my settings. But I can come in and edit any customer I choose and assign them to whatever group I would want them to be in. So if I want to take this test customer and switch them to wholesalers, you can see how easy it is. And to do this, you just edit the customer. And then in the discounts section, you'll see this little section here for customer group, and you can pick which group they're tied to. You can also make this customer tax exempt and give them free shipping hardwired outside of the customer group pricing, but the customer group themselves may already give the customer these privileges, so there may or may not ever really be a need to do that on that end. Another way to assign customers to a group, other than just adding them manually, is using the customer import tool. So if you were to export all your customers, you'd see a sample of what that file looks like. And if customer groups are enabled, it will tell you the name of the customer group that customer should be associated with. So from here, you can see a screenshot on the right of a sample customer export that I created. And, this export has 50, 60 different customers in it. And you'll see some of them are tied to the wholesalers customer group. Some of them are tied to the JL customer group. Some of them are blank. That's in this case because I'm using a sample store that, at one point did not use customer group pricing and then it did. So people who are blank, the system assumes and considers them part of the default group. So in this example, if JL is the default customer group, then anybody who is customer group is blank or not assigned to a customer group, they will just be lumped into the JL customer group by default, just based on them being logged in. They're treated as if they're in the JL customer group since it's the default. You can, of course, import any of these customers or type in the name of the group in any of those blank fields, and then it will then assign that group to that customer if you were to then import this customer file back into the system and update all your customers. On the storefront, once you have the groups created, once you've gone into the product and created the prices, as you're seeing another screenshot of that here, and once you have confirmed the customers are in the groups that they're supposed to be in, the last step is seeing how it works on the front end, right? So in this example I'm about to show you, I went into this product called Cinnamon Candle, and I set the price for the JL group to 5 and the price for the wholesalers group to 4. And as you can see, if I then log in to the front end, and in this case, I was not even logged in to any account at all. So because of that, it's going to lump me into whatever the default group is. In this case, that's the JL group anyway. So you'll see that I'm looking at this product and it says that the base price is $5. But then if I then log into an account that is already tied to the wholesale customer group, and then I just basically refresh the screen, now it knows I'm in that group. And you can see now it charged me $4. And not only that, the customer group pricing, not only does it work for the base item, it works for the options too. So if you're going to use personalizations and you're going to use option sets, it can work at that level as well. Obviously, there's more work involved in setting up pricing for options, which we discussed in a previous webinar, if you remember, for any of you that watched the other webinar about variants. So you can set the customer group pricing to work not only just at this base level, but also at the different options and the variant levels as well. And if you've used, I don't have a screenshot of it in this presentation, but if you also use the quantity-based pricing tool, the customer group pricing will work in conjunction with that as well. And what that means is, I can basically go into a product and say, if the quantity ordered is between 1 and 5, then I want the JL price to be $5 and the wholesale price to be $4. And then the next line could say, if I'm going to order 6 to 10 of these, then I want the JL price to be $3 and the wholesale price to be $2.50 or something like that. And so that's how the customer group pricing and the quantity-based pricing can work in conjunction with each other or independent from each other as well. And that is the end of the webinar presentation. So I hope it was useful. And if you guys have any questions at all about what was discussed, feel free to throw any questions in the chat and I'll answer those questions now. I'll stop sharing my